everyone. Thanks for joining us at our book club, The Book Over, where we talk about books, especially the ones that give us those book hangovers. Today we have Drea with us, who is the author of the new book, Caged in Flames. And I'm Sarah, and with me is
Megan. Sorry, that's the beautiful teacher coming out.
And thank you for joining us. And we're going to jump right in and talk to Drea about her book. So, Drea, what made you decide that you wanted to write a book?
I have always wanted to write a book, and I feel like a lot of people do want to start writing. They just don't know like what the kickoff point was. So I actually just texted my husband and I was like, I need a new laptop. I have a book and I want to write it. So he brought me home a laptop the same day. It was for Christmas. It's not like we just have the means to just go and buy laptops at random, but he brought it home and he was like, it's your Christmas present, because he just left it on the table instead of wrapping it. He's sweet like that.
Yeah.
But that weekend I wrote probably the first 6 chapters. Wow. And honestly, so much of that changed to what is the first 6 chapters now. But yeah, I wrote the first 6 chapters and I was like, oh, I think I'm actually going to be able to do this. So at that point I was like, all right, let's just go for it.
Yeah. So
did you have it plotted out first, or was it just, I'm going to start writing, no, like,
Yeah. So at first I didn't have anything plotted. I was like, let me just see what starts to flow. And then after I wrote those first few chapters, I did go in and start plotting. And then, yeah, it eventually came together. But at first I had no idea where it was going to go. So
you just started. Wow. I love that. I love that you just sat down and wrote, and it became what it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so, like, would you be, before you started writing it, like, you said you told your husband, like, I have a book and I need a new laptop. So was it something that, like, when you're in the shower or doing the dishes and stuff, like the story would start developing in your head and then you would like be like, I need to write this down? Or like, did you just keep those 6 chapters in your head until you were able to sit down finally and like type it out? Like, do you have Post-it notes everywhere with like ideas before you started, or?
I may have had a couple of notes on my phone, but what actually started this particular book was the fact that I really liked the name Phoenix, and my husband and I don't plan on having any more children, but I like jokingly said, could we name our kid Phoenix and call them Nix? And he was like, absolutely not. And I was like, okay, so then I should probably make this a person somehow. And I turned her into this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love how things like that kind of just like snowball into everything. So.
Yes. And then I wanted her to have some type of trauma, I guess. Mm-hmm. I think we all like our damsels a little damaged. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to kind of write something with a realistic depiction of mental health, because you don't see it a lot, or sometimes you just can't relate to the way it's written because you don't have any type of similar experience with those particular items. So yeah, those were the big things that I was like, well, her name is Phoenix. She's going to have depression. Like, she's going to suffer from depression. And then she's also going to attempt suicide. So those were the things that I knew off the bat were going to happen.
So on that note, can you give us a brief synopsis of what Caged in Flames is about?
Yeah, so it's about a girl named Nix, and she has grown up watching her dad walk away from his family, so her and her mom, to go and live with another woman and her son named Charlie, but never have any connection to them once he walks away. However, they all live in the same town, and they never cross paths because Charlie and Regina, that's his mom, I have a nickname for her, but and Richard, they all just kind of live their separate lives, and Cheryl and Nix do the same. However, Nix kind of never stops hoping that her dad's going to come back into the picture. So eventually she works her way into Bliss Haven Academy, which is a very, very important school for people who have extreme goals set out for their future. And for Nyx, that's getting into a hardcore music program where she can play violin and really shine. And I would say that's probably motivated by her wanting to be seen by her dad versus seen by the world. So yeah. And then once she gets there, Charlie is not a fan of her being there and being kind of reminded of her presence. So him and his friends set out to make her leave, but that all takes place in the past, and she ends up returning to Bliss Haven 2 years later after they kind of broke her down to the point where she attempted suicide due to everything in her life just kind of accumulating into this huge snowball effect, and she just wanted to leave it. But this time around, she decides it's not worth leaving. She's going to fight after all. So we get to see her kind of rise from the ashes and live her best life with the help of some friends, of course.
Yeah. The first chapter really grabbed me. Just just her and the suicide thing, and then her showing up at the school. And what I like about the book is that you really bring that mental illness in there. And I feel like after 2020, mental illness is like going to be a really big thing. Everybody was so separate from people. And if you already had something going on with you, I feel like that probably like got worse or heightened while you were, on your own a lot. And I feel like that's one thing, in the world or in our society that is still kind of shunned upon, like people don't talk about mental illness that much. It's not like a top medical thing half the time. I feel like, it's just as deadly as cancer in my eyes. Mm-hmm. So like, I really like that you brought that in. And even though like she got treatment for it after those years of being away, and she finally gets to go back to the school, but she still has like that dark day where she needed, someone to help her out of it and stuff. So I really like that you show that it's like, it's not a one and done, you're treated, you're fine. Like this is going to be a struggle her whole life pretty much. And that she does have these guys that she's slowly going to find out, I hope, or realize that they do care about her and they're going to help her through it. She does have, because it was Jude that helped her on the dark day, which I love Jude. But Gunnar, who's, helping her. But I really like that you brought that in there, and it wasn't just like a quick little, oh yeah, this happened, and then let's move on. Like I like that it showed up a few times in the book, and I really enjoyed that part. Well, you know what I mean? Like that was good in the book. Like it wasn't just like a quick glance over. Yeah,
she attempts suicide and then she comes back a year later and she's just good to go.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I have a personal experience with depression and anxiety. So everything I wrote is very much based off my own experience with it, as well as the research that I've done on the particular things that Nyx suffers with, because while there may be some similarities, it's not a complete mirror of what I experience. I just know that those struggles never go away and they can change daily. So yeah, Nyx's mental health will continue to be a theme throughout her story because it doesn't go away. And I really liked that it came together and she did continue to seek treatment, and she decided she wasn't going to turn her back on it because there have been times where I have, and it's not healthy. So I wanted to kind of show that you can be weak from it, but it doesn't make you a weak person. You don't have to fall into the stigma that society has created for us on being crazy and all that jazz. So yeah.
Right. Well, and I think it shows kind of how strong she really is when you're okay with getting treatment. I think that shows that your strengths, you're willing to, say, yeah, I do have a problem and I need help. A lot of people, I feel like, look at things and they go, okay, if I ask for help, then I'm weak. But it's really the opposite. I think if you ask for help, then it shows that you're strong. So
agree.
Could not agree more. Well, I love that early on we get a diagnosis for her, and I love that it's stated that it's not the incident, the and what the boys put her through isn't what caused the mental illness. It's something that she always had, and it like drew her to that point. But you make it clear that it's not like, oh, an incident caused this her to, want to kill herself. Is that it's something that she's always had. I think that's so important.
Yeah. I think it was important for me to show how triggers can affect us. We get trigger warnings on our books all the time, and we know that they can impact us. I know that there are so many people who are like, I have no triggers, and they won't walk away from a book being mentally affected by it. But then there are other people who are like, I don't necessarily have triggers. Like me, I wouldn't say that I have triggers in a book. There are some things that I know I have to be in the right mindset to be able to read. Or I can definitely set myself into a low because I'm super empathetic, and I feel characters and I feel their emotions. So if I am going through this journey with someone like Nyx, which there were times when writing Nyx that I had to step away, and I found myself kind of falling into my own lows because I was mirroring her feeling so much that it became a little too much. But yeah, it was important to show that triggers can come through and affect us in ways that we didn't think we would ever kind of succumb to. And for her, that was attempting to take her own life, and kind of the start of her story, honestly, because she thought her whole life she'd been working for something, and then she let this one incident kind of push her over the edge, but it was something she had always been hovering on the edge of. She just didn't realize it until someone kind of threw her off.
Exactly. And I also, when reading it, what I really enjoyed too was not just Nyx's story, but all the POVs of the guys' side of the story, the past things, I mean, I feel like all of them, I have a good grasp on like their personalities and who they are, but there's still so much mystery to find out, which I really enjoy, like I know, like by the end of the book, like we know a lot more about like Charlie's side of the story and how he was feeling and stuff. And we know some of the things he's done, and like a little bit of Jude and Sawyer too. So like I really liked that in the book too. It's like I don't just know Nyx really well, what's going on in her head, but now I know all of them and what's going on in their heads, what was going on in their heads in the past, all that. So like that's what it just felt so well rounded. Like I felt like I just understood where everybody was coming from, and it was just like I got to watch it all happen, and it was a nice, good read that way, so like, thank you for adding. I love POVs. I love the different ones, even if it's just one chapter where it's all of a sudden in there, because I like Charlie, I was not a fan of Charlie until I got like a couple of Charlie's POVs, so that was Jude. I think Jude, I liked pretty fast. And then I think that's just more like his personality, and he seems like, a sweet guy and stuff, but also like, yoga. I love yoga. So like, oh, Jude does yoga. So awesome. So, and then Sawyer too. Sawyer, I text Megan at one point that I wouldn't mind a Sawyer and Gunner sandwich. I wouldn't. So, and with the end of the book, I'm really,
Add the Charlie in there though.
I know, right? Yeah, and that's the thing too about your book is like, it started out with me not really liking Charlie at all. Like even like when he was in the hotel room and like all that stuff. And then, but by the end of the book, I was like, poor Charlie, so like all of a sudden now I'm like rooting for Charlie to, and so with how the book ends too, with her being upset and walking away, I'm really curious on what's going to happen in the next book. And I know you're not going to tell us anything, but like I'm really looking forward to see like who does she go to for help, if she's going to be like a lone ranger in some of this stuff. Like, is she gonna, she's obviously going to be mad at Gunner and Sawyer for a while. So like I'm just, I'm like trying to in my head figure out who's she going to go to. Is it going to be Jude? Is it going to be Charlie eventually, or is she just going to stick with Jane? So yeah.
I know who I'm rooting for her to go to.
I know who you're rooting for always.
I'm the opposite. See, I loved Charlie from the beginning, from the very first moment. I love him dark.
She loved him from the character aesthetic that I sent her before I even finished writing.
Yeah, so I beta read for this book, so I saw through many incarnations, and I've been rooting for Charlie for a very long time, and I have laid claim, and it's pretty official. It's pretty official.
It's official. I wrote it into the author note that Charlie belongs to her.
I was gonna frame that. Oh, and you know what I really love though? I love my Charlie, but I love Gunnar, and I love Gunnar because, in bully romances, it can be really, first books can be really difficult. But first of all, I love that you did the bullying and flashbacks, because it made it so much easier to read and digest. And then I love that she had Gunnar from the get-go as her like support. Like, we had a guy who wasn't a bad guy, who didn't have a history with her negatively, to have that support. I love that in a bully romance. So I just feel like it's rare to have a bully romance where you read it all the way through and it's like digestible and it's a great story and you love it and it's not hard to read. Were some of the flashbacks hard? Sure, but you're in the present day now, so it's just different. I love that about this book. I love that the bullying is done in the flashbacks and we start in this present.
Yeah,
It's very unique.
I basically wanted to have your typical bully romance genre, but have books 1 and 2 kind of combined into the storyline, because I wanted it to have the grit and the angst that comes with, book 1 of a Bully Academy series. But I didn't want to have to relive all of that. First off, Bully is my favorite. That is what I live for. Those are my favorite reads in general, is the bully trope, especially if it's RH, like live for it. But I get very invested, which makes it kind of hard to move on to the next series. And then also in general, there are times where I love a series and think it's so well done, but I can never go back and reread book 1. Because I don't want to relive these characters that I've come to know and love. I don't want to relive those moments where they let me down and disappointed me and disappointed the character. So I wanted to kind of combine those aspects into what you love getting in book 1, but also how you maneuver through it without kind of ruining the storyline.
I think you did a brilliant job of that, as someone who also has trouble rereading book 1, and I will just go like, 2 through 4 usually.
Yeah. No, I hear you on that one. I mean, with me, I could reread it just because I know that it's going to be okay, but it's still, it's hard, and it makes you have to be in the right mindset to reread those things, like you said, because they disappoint you. So yeah.
Especially when you've seen them come so far, and then to be pushed back when you're in a reread, and it's like, I can't take it. It's hard.
I think that's why I liked J. Bree writing Make My Move so much, because it was kind of a mirror of Make Your Move, and it wasn't necessarily like new content, because some of it is like word for word, but in Make My Move, you just get a little bit more of their feelings about it, because honestly, the guys never really bullied Lips in the first place. It was all Avery. But in Make My Move, you can kind of see who struggled with it and who didn't really care until it was time to care. So
yeah, exactly. Well, and so that's what I liked about like what you did too, because there was points where she was hanging out with the guys. It's like she wouldn't have been going to a music festival with them if it wasn't so, if she didn't have time to heal already, So like, I liked the way you did it, because we still had those things. And like, one of my favorite scenes is like that movie night in the pool. So like, that would be really hard to get to in that first book if we were still dealing with like all the bullying. She wouldn't have been okay with hanging out with them at that point if like that just happened in the book or in the storyline, So I like that you did that. And I like that we got different. It took a while to get the full story too. I'm reading the book and I'm like, okay, what exactly did they do? She would just, what was it? And then it's like, when we finally get to it, I'm like, oh, okay. Like I see it now. I understand, like that. And that's also what I liked. It wasn't just like in your face, this is what happened. Like, we had to work for it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. it's funny because the original arrangement was kind of where you did get the full picture first. You actually saw the end flashback in the beginning. And then I have a really awesome team. But two of my team members are author Samantha B and author Gian Wright. And I sat down and I was kind of having a vibe session with Sammy, and she was like, hear me out. Love it all. What if you rearrange it? And so we had an hour of me just sitting there copying, pasting from one note to the other, how we should rearrange it. And I think that was probably one of the most important pieces of advice that I got about Caged in Flames, because it ended up building so much more angst than I think I would have been able to create had I given that scene first, like I originally planned.
Well, I'm happy she did that. I mean, I think it would have been good either way, but like that, I enjoyed the book because of that build up. So yeah, that's awesome that you were able to take. I can't imagine going through all my notes, and like I would have been a stress case rearranging everything, but you know.
Well, I will say that I had read both versions till that point, and I think it made a huge difference. I love both versions, but I think it really put it over the edge, and I feel like it was supposed to be this way. And I love the way it reads. Absolutely love the way it reads. So I think all that hard work was definitely worth it in changing the order.
She said it, and I was like, it was a light bulb switch. It gave me so much more clarity on how to fill in the rest of the pieces and how to kind of blend those in together. And from that point forward, everything just seemed to flow so much more naturally. And I wasn't so stressed about finishing the book because I knew how it was going to end already. I had those last 3 chapters written, and then putting that big flashback before it, I was like, this really makes a difference. So
now, is it hard for you to change the vision that you had, or when you have a light bulb moment, is it like, okay, I'm ready to change this book? Do you ever struggle in changing the plans that you had?
Yes, because I am super OCD about things, and when things don't go to how I plan them, it can really derail everything for me. And there was a 50-50 chance that she told me that and I went off the rails and couldn't have done it because I would have thought it was too stressful. But because it made so much sense, just like that one simple suggestion was like, just what if you rearranged it? Doesn't sound so crazy when you say it so simply, but for someone like me, I was like, oh my God, that's life altering. So it didn't stress me out to do it because it made so much sense. But if it had been like critical feedback to the point where none of the character development made any sense or something like that, then it probably would have pushed everything back for me. I wouldn't have been able to finish it in the time frame that I did.
So how long did it take you to write it?
Well, I started writing it in November of 2020. So the weekend that I got my laptop, but I probably had only like 10K written. And then I found Samantha B because she was putting out Shattered Chaos, and I was obsessed with her, and I kind of stalked my way into her friendship, which brought Stabby Gabby with her. And I gave them the first like 10K and got really, really good feedback from them. So at that point, I started writing a little more, but I do have a day job, plus like being a wife and mom. So those may sound cliche, but those take so much time and energy. So we're going to count them as jobs.
Yes.
They are personas that I also have. So all in all, the completed product was like done in July of this year. Okay. But there were times where I would go weeks without touching it. So I don't see that being a thing that happens now. I don't think it will take me almost a year to write book 2 because I kind of have a better grasp on my writing style as well as the characters now. But yeah, it took, what was that, 8 months almost? So
I don't think that's bad. I mean, especially for your first time doing this, like, I think that's great because I feel like, it could easily take somebody years too, especially as like a mom and already having another job, like that I can see that taking forever.
Yes, for sure. I don't know how some authors do rapid releases, even when they do like full-time writing. I cannot understand it. There are times where people will be like, I wrote 10K in a day. And I'm like, I am amazed by you. And then the next day they do it again. And I'm like, oh, like, yeah. I don't even know that many words at this point in my life. Like, I don't, how? But I guess it makes sense though, because if you actually sit down and dedicate the time to it and things are flowing, you can kind of push out a lot. But I think the most I've ever written in one sitting was close to 7K. And that's crazy a lot for me, because normally you're going to get 15 to 3, like 1500 to 3K. And that's going to be my day when it comes to writing. But after you write a big chunk like that, it can be super exhausting. It can take a few days before you're ready to do it again. So I think it's just dependent upon the author.
So what was your, like, so one of my favorite scenes is the pool movie night. Like, do you have a favorite scene from the book that you wrote?
I don't know about favorite, but I will give you a little insight to the pool scene. That was never planned. I knew that Nyx was going to have a low because of course she has depression. It doesn't go away. And I kind of had a feeling that it would be Jude that tried to pull her out of it, because he dedicates so much time in the book to kind of proving that she's still the person he fell in love with, but also that he could be worthy of his love if he really tried. So I heard this song and it's on the book playlist, and it reminded me so much of our group chat and the girls that I have in it, because we have a super awesome girl gang. And I was like, I just want a moment for Nyx that is like, this could be my friend group, this could be my tribe, this could be my family. Like, it doesn't just have to be me, and it doesn't just have to be me and my mom. So it's that song, Fuck, I Love My Friends. And I don't even remember. I've seen it where people do like the pools in their backyard and then set up the movie tent, like the movie thing or whatever. But I've never seen it where people are actually like in a pool just chilling. And I was like, I think that would be so cute. And it's like actually achievable if you really like work on the dynamic. So I was like, I feel like that would just be so sweet. And I think it would be something that Jude's creative mind would go to and actually like be able to implement. So yeah, that I wanted a moment like that between the group.
I think that was a very important scene that you needed to see where they were at, and to see that Nyx was like, you know, that she could have fun with them and that she was kind of ready to forgive them. I think that scene was like really pivotal.
Yeah.
I would say for me.
Pivotal.
There you go. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
How important is music and playlists to you when writing? Because I might know that it's super important to you.
It's beyond important. I correlate music with so much in life, and I have no musical talent whatsoever. Like zero, none in my body. But
what about a recorder when you were a kid?
No, actually, when it came time to do the assembly for the recorder, I faked it. And someone caught me, because I went to a very small school. Another boy in the grade above me was watching, and he made eye contact with me and 100% knew I was faking. And he got like that little smirk, like the Charlie Evil smirk. And looked over to his friend, pointed me out, and was like, she's faking. She doesn't even know how to play the recorder. Most embarrassing moment of my elementary life.
No.
But no, I have no musical talent whatsoever, but music is super important to help me kind of piece things together in my brain. And that's how Sammy and I became friends, is because I wouldn't stop messaging her songs that made me think of Scar. And then I met Gabby and I started doing it for Gabby, and I created playlists for their characters that like gave me vibes for the books that they were writing. But music is very, very, very important to me, and it was important to have a playlist that kind of went with the flow of the book. I spent a lot of time on that playlist because my actual Phoenix playlist is over 400 songs, and I had to narrow Caged in Flames playlist down to like 30. So
Yeah.
Are you going to release the unedited playlist to the masses?
Probably not, because I feel like if you were to actually be inside my head, and I don't think it's actually possible that anyone could do it I mean, it is possible, but I don't see it being possible. I think that songs on there would kind of give ideas of what I had planned in the future, because I put them on the playlist because they kind of sparked a little something. But I don't think I would ever release it just for that. And also because there are things on there that probably don't go with the story at all if you were to just read it or to think of the characters. But for me, they just kind of, they vibe.
That would be interesting if you released it and told people that and then had them guess their feelings.
Yeah, right. Here's my playlist. Figure out what I plotted.
That would be fun.
Yeah. But I don't know. That's a lot of hours of listening to music, which I mean, if you're 17 and stuff, yeah. So yeah. So when you finished writing the book, when you finally typed like the end, what did you do to like, did you celebrate? Did you like have a glass of wine, play music, or were you just like, okay, I'm done, going to sleep? Like,
I probably texted the group, and then I probably just went and read a book, or like laid in bed for a minute.
right.
I'm not like super celebratory in that sense. And also I didn't want to make a big deal out of it in my personal life, because the content that's in the book doesn't necessarily meet what I would want people in my life to know that I think about on a regular basis. But like my husband, he makes a big deal out of it for me. He makes me feel important. I just don't give him a lot of insight to the process. So he dedicated a lot of like dad time to make sure that I could have writing time. So once it was done, just kind of like told him, I was like, I finished the book today. Like it's going to be published on August 13th. It's going to be a thing. So
that's awesome.
Speaking of which, your dedication was to your husband.
It was to him, but also kind of his anatomy.
Great dedication. I think it's to who you are as an author. You know what I mean? I think it's a great introduction. Like, hey, this is my dedication. You're in for a ride.
Oh yeah, it's funny because Ellie's godparents, my daughter's godparents, her godmother bought the paperback and got it in today. And then she was like, I'm so excited to read this. And I was like, are you sure? And then I was like, wait a minute, did you get to the dedication yet? Before I had even sent that, I had a picture pop up and it was the dedication. And she was like, I cannot breathe. She said she was squealing like Janice from Friends. And I was like, well,
this is what you're in for.
It's what you're in for.
I appreciate it.
Bad, you're not going to be able to handle Nix's thoughts.
True.
Or Jane's commentary.
Have many people from your personal life read the book? Has your husband read the book?
No. He's not a reader. He did read the dedication, and I have a video of him reading the dedication because I just thought it was really funny to get his reaction to it. But no, he won't read it. He's not a reader, you know? Like, I don't know a whole lot of men or people who identify as men that are readers.
Yeah.
And what they read probably just doesn't align with this particular genre. But also, like, I don't have a whole lot of friends in real personal life that do read. I got my best friend started on reading this year, to the point where, like, I introduced her slowly to my favorite rom-com author, R.S. Gray, and she got hooked on that. And then I was like, well, let's just see how you feel. Why don't you try reading Hannaford? I was like, I'm not going to lie. This is going to be the ultimate test of our friendship, because if you don't like this book, I don't know that I can move forward with you being a friend who reads with me. It's not going to happen, but worked out. She loved it. And now she has actually read Caged in Flame. She's the only one that I know of that has talked to me about the book that has read it. So I sent her an ARC because sadly she got COVID. So she had a lot of downtime. And I happened to be sending out ARCs anyway. So it's like, well, I'll send you an advanced copy. Why don't you just tell me what you think? She ended up liking it. Well, she told me she liked it. If she hated it, I'm sure she would have the balls to tell me. So it'd be fine. But Yeah, she's the only one I know in my personal life who's actually read the book.
It's nice to have a personal life, like a person in real life, a friend that reads, because I find that very rare to A, have a reader friend, and B, to have a reader friend that will read your genres. I also have a best friend that I pushed like a few series on. I'm working on her. She's slow, but we did have problems. We did have beef because when she got to All Hail, she was Team Crow over Aiden. And I was like, what? She's like, she didn't trust Aiden. Like, why don't you trust Aiden? So we had like we worked together at work. We had this like during break, a whole like big debate. Another coworker came in and she's like, what are you talking about? And I was just like, nothing.
Well, we know how I feel about Atticus based off the nickname that I have deigned for him. So,
well, she's still Team Crow, and that's okay. Different friends. Why choose? I guess. But that was an interesting revelation in our friendship.
oh Lord, I would have gotten to a heated debate too, because well, you've gotten voice messages from me, so
yeah. Well, because Aiden's just my boo. He's like, it's like Ash and then Aiden. So book boyfriends, gotta love them. And well, you should know. I'm like Charlie.
Yeah.
Love me some Charlie. What can you tell us about book 2?
Well, there will be a new character introduced in book 2. I don't know that he has main character energy yet or not. He hasn't let me know.
Okay.
But I would say to expect some type of new development relationship wise. I don't know if that means friendship or romantic, but there will definitely be. Nyx is not losing someone from her team without gaining someone back to her team. We'll say that.
Okay.
Interesting how you say losing somebody from her team. So do you mean like Gunnar, because Gunnar was on her team and then
I would say that, or like I could go super rogue and just kill someone off.
You could.
I would never. In this particular series or in this particular book, I don't have any. No one's told me they're dying that I know of, so
not yet.
Not yet.
We're safe for now, but in future books we should be careful because this is somewhat marinating in your brain.
Oh yeah, but that's the spoiler I'll give you guys. There's a new player in the game.
I'm excited to meet them.
Yeah, that's a big spoiler for anyone who's listening. That's I did not know this, so I'm very excited to know this.
So, how many books are we expecting?
I planned a trilogy. I am hoping that it stays a trilogy.
Okay.
Like I would do everything I could to keep it a trilogy. So I don't foresee it going longer than that. I know that it's hard for readers to stay with a series when it goes past 3 books. And then after 4 books, it's like, you lost me. There are very few authors who have written more than 5 books in a series that I've actually stayed with them for it. Mm-hmm. Heather Long's Untouchable series, that's my heart, man. Yes. And book 9 comes out on Tuesday, I guess. Yeah, on this upcoming Tuesday, the 24th. So and there's 12 books in that series. And if you would have told me when I started book 1 that the series was going to be 12 books, I probably would have been like, oh, I'm gonna dip out. But she weaved it so wonderfully, like that you want to keep reading and that you're okay with the fact that you have to wait. So regardless of how killer her cliffhangers can be.
And some of them really can be, but the thing about, I think, Heather Long's books are that you get to explore a reverse harem relationship like more in depth than you do in any other series. You kind of get emotionally embedded in those characters, and it's just something really special. Like the fact that you can read so many books and you want to read so many books and you don't want it to end is something special. So
definitely speaks to her talent for sure. She's incredible.
Now, would you ever write a very long series in the future, after a couple years under your belt, or are you just like, no, I'm going to keep it at trilogies for now?
I don't know. I think if I did it, I would probably have to do like interconnected standalones or duets or something within the same world. So not necessarily the same series, but okay. I think that would be more my style. But I'm new to, developing characters over a short period of time and what that looks like. So I'm not going to say never. I do think it would be a little less likely for me. Also because my attention span is not that great. And I'm just now starting to get to where I can juggle 2 different storylines at once. Take that with what you will. So if you would have asked me if I could have started something while writing the first book of Blisshaven, I would have said no. Like there was no way. I could barely read and then write this at the same time. So absolutely not. But now I feel a little bit more comfortable with writing. So I don't know what that will turn into.
So now you feel like you can write multiple things at a time, potentially.
Or at least plot them out.
So, so we have a lot to look forward to, it sounds like. How many projects do you have on the horizon?
I will say that I have, Blisshaven is one. Mm-hmm. And then I have 2 other projects. Okay, 3. But I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about on the 3rd one, but we'll just say that it may not be just me contributing to it. I'm so funny because I know I can control my spoilers in my mouth and what I give out very well. Mm-hmm. But I know that when I listened to Sammy and Gabby do their interview, they gave out so much information and I had to text them and be like, I cannot believe you. So now I'm trying to like not be a complete vault, but I'm also kind of like the lid's just right on top,
We should just open it a little bit. Maybe but you should pay back.
They won't care though. They'll just laugh at me and be like, haha.
Okay, so it doesn't affect anything. Okay, so you have 3. Okay, so you have Blisshaven, and then you said 2 other projects, or did you say 3 other projects?
Technically 3 on top of Blisshaven.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing what you come out with.
Yes, there's some different tropes, so I don't think I'll just stick to RH because there is one project that I have is complete passion project that I have barely started plotting for at all, and it may take several years before I'm actually comfortable writing that story, but it's kind of based off things that I've read and I didn't like specific aspects. I'm trying to write a book that I would be completely happy with because those aspects were not ever involved. So
I love that. So you want to take what you wish you had in a certain book or certain series and make it's kind of like writing what you wish happened or writing what you wish someone put out there.
I
love that. People always say they'll ask for a recommendation and someone's like, you should write it, or like someone write this. So I think that's perfect.
Oh yeah.
And exciting. I want to know more. I'm greedy for it.
Do you have, I guess, because like you wrote the book, so was there just like a certain book that you read after writing it that was kind of like your hero of the book to get you just like back to like, okay, I'm done writing and now I'm like getting back to life?
You're like palate cleanser.
I have a couple of palate cleansers, but after writing, I haven't really hopped into anything right now. I've done some rereads, but it's like stuff that I only ever read once anyways. Mm-hmm. And I haven't read Bully in a year. I haven't read anything that's Bully Academy style that could possibly have any type of overlay with what I've written. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to do plausible deniability. I don't want to unconsciously mirror something. And so I haven't read Bully in so long, and I'm sad because I don't think that I'll read any more Bully until Blisshaven has finished. Aww. But I will reread some of the Bullies I've already read. Like Hannaford is a palate cleanser for me, but it's usually like I start with book 2, like Make Your Move. And then R.S. Gray, I really, really like the rom-com make me laugh type situation. So there's one series called one book called Make Me Bad. And it's just really cute and funny. It's like a small town girl. She's a librarian and she's never done anything bad in her life because her dad's like the sheriff of the town. And then she runs into the resident bad boy. Like shockingly, it's like chapter 1, and she like gets held at gunpoint, like gets mugged, and he's the one who finds her, ironically, after getting out of jail. So it's so funny. And the whole book is her like having new experiences with him and him like breaking her out of her shell. And I wouldn't say it's like steamy on the level of like some of the stuff that we read, but I would say that it's steamy enough to keep your interest, but also like make your gut hurt from laughing so hard. So
that sounds really good. I'm gonna have to add that to my R.S. Gray must read finally list.
Please, I need more people who read her. I've met a few readers on TikTok or like Instagram, Bookstagram, whatever it is, that have read her, but I haven't met a whole lot of people that will like talk to me about it. So I need people to read it and then slide into my DMs and tell me all about it. Read anything. I only have a few of her books on my shelf, but I will eventually own all of them. So
good goal to have. I definitely want to try that. I mean, that book sounded really good. So I'm trying to get more into romantic comedies because, you know, when you do have a book hangover, especially from a dark read, which is mainly what I read, I think that would be good.
I'm trying to look at myself because
Maybe
I
I
just
wouldn't
redid it.
struggle.
Oh, Lola and the Millionaires. That one's a really good one for a palate cleanser too. I think that the relationship development in it is very good because there's MM. I love RH with MM, like obsessively love. And the relationship is centered on the FMC, but they also have relationships with each other, not just relations. So I think that it's really brilliantly done, and it's a very good book to want to like reach that status with. So those are probably the 3 books that I could reread any point, anytime, and like never get tired of them.
Heard a lot of good things about Lola and the Millionaires.
Girl, you'd love it.
Called the Sweet Verse, right? Catherine Moon?
Catherine Moon, yeah.
Catherine Moon, okay. On my TBR.
Yes.
See, there's that TBR again.
Always.
Stacking.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's like a refrigerator where you just have you have so much to eat and you just open it and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I eat? Should I get carry out?
Right, exactly.
Always. Let me
always, yes.
Right. I guess that's like an ARC. It's like, I'm going to sign up for an ARC instead, even though I have a huge TBR.
No more.
On that note, as a new author, what advice would you have? And I know you probably get this a lot. What would you have for new authors besides just write? Because I hear that a lot.
Yeah. Maybe try and find your people. Like, there's no reason for you to go into self-publishing all by yourself, because there are people out there who probably would love to help you, whether it's beta reading for you, staying up late and having those vibe sessions, or just kind of like being your motivation. Maybe you have someone who's really good at curating playlists based off moods, and they just want to send you a playlist to vibe it out with. Like, whatever it is, try and find your people, because there's no reason to do it alone. There are way too many people out there who want to help you. Finding people like you guys who are willing to start up something new and just kind of support new authors, things like that, because there are people on Bookstagram who are really new, who may have been wanting to start it for a while, or maybe they just got the idea a minute ago and literally started up an account right then. Whatever it is, like, there is someone out there, even if it's just finding someone to talk about other books about. Like, that's how my friendship with Megan started, is we realized we were in a lot of the same groups, and we just decided, what if we randomly message each other about books as we read them? Like, yeah. And it worked out. And I have a friend in Australia named Jess that I am constantly, at least once a month, we try and check in, which Australia has gone through a lot with the pandemic. They are constantly on lockdown. So if you have a friend in Australia, you should probably check on their mental health right now. But overall, like, you just find so many people in this community who want to see you succeed, whether it's they feel like they can help you actually write the story, or if they could just help you by lifting you up in some way. Because I know that we have like people on my group and my team, they don't always have critical feedback to provide. They don't have like tangible feedback on the book, but they are more than willing to hype me up when I'm feeling low, or send me songs that kind of remind them of what I've told them about, whatever it is. And sometimes that can really spark something for me. There are authors I know who hear a song and write an entire book based off what the song meant for them. So yeah.
Find your tribe.
Yeah, find your tribe. Reach out to people. There aren't many authors who are going to say, no, I don't have time to help you.
Yeah.
Like they might say, I don't have time to read 100,000 words right now, but if you could send me the first like 6 chapters, whatever it is, if you could send me your prologue in the first 3 chapters, let me see if it's something that I can even vibe with, and let me get back to you. Because they probably will. If it's not something that they like reading, they probably can't help you build it up to what you want it to be. So yeah.
I think that's great advice.
All right. Last call, everyone. I really enjoyed this book. Drea, thank you so much for talking with us. I loved all of your insight about the writing process and about the book and some of your future projects.
And as you know, I absolutely love this book. Thank you for joining us. It meant the world to us that you were our first author on here. And if you haven't read Caged in Flames, I don't think did we talk about it enough to give too much away? I don't think so. So you need to go check it out because it is amazing. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate your time today.
Of course.
Thank you.
All right.
Everybody, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time for the book over.
Bye.